The 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum, one of Australia's largest Aboriginal economic events, provides the opportunity for the Territory's Aboriginal businesses to showcase products, network, share knowledge, and to grow. Over 2 days, the forum proved to be an outstanding success, with input from Aboriginal business owners, corporate and government delegates, and inspiring keynote speakers. The official welcoming reception for this year's forum was hosted by Dr. Donna Odegaard AM at Parliament House.
Welcome to the 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum. My name's Donna Odegaard, I'm Larrakia, I'm a traditional owner. I'm also a businesswoman, so this event means a lot to me. It's one that I look forward to every time it comes around. I'd firstly like to acknowledge that we are on Larrakia land. We are gathering at a very special place.
I would like to acknowledge the spirit of this country, but also the elders past and present and the future elders. I would like to acknowledge all you mob that's come from a long way and the people that live here, your elders and that are past and present, also the spirit that travels with you. May you travel safe in my country and welcome. Thank you very much.
Remarkable Indigenous talent populates our north. May it do so for another 60,000 years. Before talking about that though, the next 60, I'd like to reflect on an encounter experienced by the Larrakia. It happened just close to here. It was the first known contact the Larrakia had with Europeans. It's 1839. John Lort Snokes is leading an expedition on the HMAS Beagle, trying to map major northern rivers and hoping to discover an inland sea connecting north to the south. Take your mind back, 180 years ago at this time of year. The Beagle expedition meets a group of Larrakia men at Shoal Bay. Stokes notes in his journal how strong and healthy they are. 2 weeks later, the same Larrakia men visit the crew of the Beagle at Emery Point on the beach of the suburb we now know as Larrakia. Something had changed. In a matter of 2 weeks from that first contact, this Larrakia group is beset with influenza, hacking, coughing, deeply, deeply unwell. Nowhere in his journal does Stokes acknowledge that his crew are the most likely source of this sickness. In 1839, we had gone viral. We think of ourselves as living in fast times, but nothing as swift and telling as that encounter. Everything we do must be grounded in truth-telling, from treaty to economic development. Our first people have a right not just to survive, but thrive. You have to know where you've come from to know where you're going. Now, viral has taken on a different meaning. Going viral is a good thing. Look at some of the Territory Indigenous names that float in that space. Miranda Tapsell, Jessica Mauboy, the two Dr. Unipingus, both with such enduring legacies. Magnolia Mayru, model and human rights advocate. Bakyali Ganamba, emerging acting talent. Robbie Collins, firmly established acting talent. The incredible women's artists from Manangrida's Butbara, taking their textile art to Paris. Not everyone can paint, draw or act. I certainly can't. Gary is a triple threat. Everyone expresses themselves differently. Some do it by being steady on their land. Some do it by trying to unlock the secrets of business success. In Gumbalanya, young entrepreneurs are producing Rosella tea and beef jerky. In Alice Springs, Aboriginal Enterprise is contributing to the rebuilding of the over-the-horizon radar. We have a space program starting in Arnhem Land, led by forward-thinking traditional owners. We are entering the space race. Our Indigenous citizens stood watch over this entire coastline in World War II. They remain critical to the defence of Australia in military and biosecurity terms. We're giving Aboriginal Rangers increased and unprecedented powers. In doing so, they can better protect their country and better protect this entire country for us all. In the bush, we are encouraging communities to take control of how they want their government services delivered of our local decision-making policy. That's a major change. We're to no to the old way, and we've got to say yes to the new way. It's a completely different way of servicing the territory. No longer are we telling the bush what's good for them, they are telling us. We will see more of the kind of leaders that we have in the room today, and we have got some great leaders in the room today. From Serena Barra, from Groote Island, as part of the Bush Medagina program, handcrafted skincare range based on traditional knowledge and botanicals exported to the world. Jeremy Boucher, co-owner of Darwin IT company New Future IT, winning contracts in the bush and training young Aboriginal technicians. Nova Pomer manages Stanley Chasm in Central Australia. Her focus is on nurturing local staff, Indigenous staff, to give them better skills while making the tourist experiences deep and real. We have got incredible stories out of the Northern Territory of success, and in some late breaking news, the Northern Territory Indigenous Business Forum has snagged a major queue. It has successfully lobbied for the World Indigenous Business Forum to be held in Darwin in 2021.
As a Larrakia man, I want to welcome every one of you here this morning, whether you've come by close or from far. These forums are only held every 2 years, so please make the most of this unique opportunity and introduce yourself to as many people as you could. My name is Richard Fijai. I am a senior cross-cultural educator at Northern Territory General Practice Education. I have trained doctors for 10 years, and I am the chairman of the Larrakia Nation Aboriginal Corporation here in Darwin. I'm going to walk away from these papers for a minute because I think coming to a place like this we have to make it special for ourselves, because I feel that it's us that has to drive the change. It's us that carries the passion that we believe we can make better future for ourselves, for our families, and for our communities. So, as it says in the paper, take this opportunity to meet new people, make new relationships. This is an opportunity for you to meet with the Larrakia. This is the opportunity for you to talk to the Tiwi, the Anadiliakwa people, all the way down in the desert. We're all the same people here, and we all have the same purpose, and that's to improve our economic outcomes. So over the next 2 days, while you're doing these things, we want you to enjoy. We want you to embrace welcoming the way the Larrakia people welcome you to Darwin. Do that to each other, because at the end of the day, you're going to go back to the community, filling your minds with new ideas, and that's why we come here. And we have to use our knowledge, be it old or be it new. We have to be creative in our own ways. And we have to use the gift that we were given from our old people to create new ideas, to make things work for us. And don't be afraid to be different.
Aboriginal Territorians make up about 30% of the Territory's population. So we are an inevitable big force that will play a huge part in the Territory's economy, and the economic development in some of our remote and very remote communities is something that needs a lot of attention, support, and deserves the time, support, and the sharing and networking to be able to grow our Aboriginal economic development opportunities, particularly in the bush, but right across the Northern Territory in our regional and here in our urban areas. The Territory is unique in very many ways, and I'm sure that those who are locals will absolutely agree with that. The multicultural feel when you look around the Northern Territory is something that makes us feel part of home. It's another sense of community, and it's something that we can all add flavour to, which I think is one of the best parts of being here as a Territorian. In terms of Aboriginal business development and our business growth plan, our government is focused on helping our Aboriginal businesses and enterprises to start, to run and to grow and be sustainable in the long term. We know it's important to be able to provide this support because small businesses are the heart and lungs of the Territory. We have 14,000 small businesses operating in and around the Territory. So it's important we recognise, support and look at the opportunities, particularly for our Aboriginal enterprises across the Territory to operate in that space. And owning and operating a small business can be tough, it can be challenging, but extremely rewarding. And when we see Aboriginal Territorians starting their own business, running their own business and growing their own businesses, it is something that will help the Territory economy as a whole, but particularly our workforce here in the Territory and the opportunities that come with that. Our businesses are also providing new, different or extended products and services to some of our communities in some of the most remote and isolated parts of Australia. Now, moving to education, which is another of my portfolios. In this particular space, we are determined to make sure that our Territory kids are ready for the jobs of the future. We want them to be best placed to be the workforce of tomorrow and to contribute to the local economy here in the Territory now and, of course, into the future. One of these great examples, which is very close to my heart, is the students who have developed businesses in Numbulwar School, which is my mother's community. An op shop and a cafe. And about 6 years ago, when I was a teacher in Numbulwar, we started the Numburindi Second Chance op shop. And I'm very pleased to say it is still running today and the students are still running that op shop. Working with businesses and enterprise projects in our schools provides our students with the experience of running either retail, food stores, gaining confidence, getting real life skills to develop into contributing workforce for our future, and particularly in our small and remote communities. The Numbulwar Op Shop and Cafe has also become a social and retail hub for our residents in Numbulwar, showing initiatives like this not only have educational outcomes but can drive that social connection.
The purpose of the network is to strengthen Indigenous business capacity and bring a powerful representative voice to issues affecting Indigenous business in the NT. We aim to assist our members to achieve their full potential. We work collaboratively with government and industry to meet market demand. Due to the nature of major projects in the NT, a number of our businesses that we represent are in primary industries such as civil construction, hospitality, land management and security. And it's great that we have members in these particular sectors. So we really consider that our strengths come through a collaborative group of Aboriginal businesses working together to achieve those similar goals. The NTIBN has a very, very well-structured and clear strategic vision of where we want to be, and it consists of 3 pillars: advocacy and representation, strategic partnerships, so connecting, and capacity building, so supporting our members. I'll just have a look at these in a little bit more in depth. The 3 strategic pillars, representing, connecting and supporting, are underpinned by 6 core functions. Our main function of the NTIBN is building the reputation on the certification of Indigenous business. The functions include networking opportunities, facilitating strategic partnerships, providing direct access to Indigenous business in the NT, supporting business through professional development activities, and providing culturally appropriate business advice. Essentially, just to wrap up, and again I encourage people to come and talk to our team down there in the booth. Probably one of our big highlights was about a month ago we attended a business delegation to Vancouver. Essentially we attended the World Indigenous Business Forum, and about 18 months ago we started to put together our bid to try and bring that forum to Darwin and really put the Northern Territory on the map of the World Indigenous Business stage. So yeah, look, we got there we got there this year, and yeah, we got the go-ahead for 2021. So we'll see the World Indigenous Business Forum held in this beautiful venue that you're in today, in the lovely town that I call home, Darwin. So hopefully I didn't rip through that too quick, but yeah, thank you, and come and have a yarn down the back.
Yeah, no, the conference is good. You know, you get to see other Indigenous business, you know, a lot of the good things that are happening within their organisation or corporation or their business, all the good stuff. So it's good to see what others are doing. The networking is good. Everyone wants to, you know, help each other. And also when I talk to the board also about, you know, how they can do business with us as well. You know, they like what we're doing and what others are doing. So it's an opportunity to look at how we could probably, you know, support one another or do business with it. You know, what we wanted was to, you know, to look at an opportunity where we can make some money where we can put back into the community. That's the important thing for us, is to generate income and then put it back into community projects to develop our communities.
I'm Jonathan Thurston and you're watching Aboriginal TV.
As the chairman of the Larrakia Nation, I really feel humbled to be sitting with you today. I'm sitting there like, this is Jonathan Thurston. But it's Jonathan Thurston. Okay, so over the years you've been on stage talking about footy, sharing your stories on football career. Today you're on stage at the Aboriginal Economic Development Forum as the Managing Director at the JT Academy, an Aboriginal-owned business, talking both business and football. Tell us, how does that feel?
Yeah, a little bit nervous. Obviously, I know footy very well. Business, I'm continually learning something new every day, and you know, I've got clients and employees sitting here watching me, so it's a different environment, that's for sure, but it's also very exciting. This is the next chapter in my journey. So to be able to come to forums like this, bring my business or our business up here, and hear the stories, get the information and start conversations, it's very relevant to my business. You know, rugby league taught me so much, but it doesn't define me. And I remember the 2010 Indigenous All-Stars game. We did an exercise with Chris Sarr. He said, if you know much about your family history and culture, stand at this end of the room, and if you don't know much, stand at that end of the room. So I was at that end of the room. So after that, I rang Mum and I said, you know, I want to go out to Mitchell and have a connection, you know, meet the family from out there. And she said, you need to take your grandfather and your uncles out there. So my mum's from a big family. I took my grandfather, 3 of my uncles and a dozen of my cousins. We hired a 22-seated bus and drove out to Mitchell, which is about 8 hours west of Brisbane. I spent the weekend there doing traditional dancing and, going to the local watering hole. The Maranoa River runs right through Goongarrie country. So after it, rang Mum and we were just about to leave. And, I said, it's been such a good weekend for me. It had such a calming influence on me. And, I said, Mum, I feel like I've been here before and I've never been there. And she said, yeah, I took you out there when you were a baby. So that just blew me away. And then on the drive, on the way back, it's 8 hours drive, I started thinking to myself, what was the purpose of this trip that I went out there for? And obviously to have a connection to the land, my grandfather and my mother's country out there. And I wanted to use the platform that I have to inspire the next generation through rugby league. So went back to Townsville, started becoming an ambassador for the Indigenous programs the club was running, and seeing how successful they were being an ambassador for it. So that sort of gave me a passion for education and the next generation of our culture. And then, fast forward a few years, I'm coming towards the back end of my career, and I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do after footy now? I can't be an ambassador for these programs for the rest of my life. So I knew I had to think big, and I started being passionate about education and what's the next step for this next generation of our culture. Once they stay at school or further their studies, how can we provide opportunities in the workplace for them? So, 4 years ago, that's how the JT Academy journey began. And I've got people in this room that are sitting with me that were at the same table 4 years ago at that lunch. And, we launched 18 months ago, February last year. So, and it's just blown my mind how far we've come in a short space of time. And, like I said, education and employment. So we run programs in Woodridge, Yarrabah and Kowanyama. We've got a Women to Lead program. One of the success stories of that is one of the girls there. So for reaching their targets, we took them into the Lend-Lease offices in Brisbane. A lot of these girls have never been into the city before and seen a building like this. So we had different women from all different positions of the business come and talk to them and inspire them, how they come through to get to where they are. And it inspired them all right, because they all created a LinkedIn account and connected to with the women that spoke to them. And Lend-Lease now have started a traineeship with one of the girls in the program. So in a short space of time, it's good to see that we're starting to see the outcomes what the program was designed to do.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I love hearing stuff. It's just so inspirational, the things that we can do and seeing the young ones coming up. Now I've actually got, and I just want to make sure everyone knows that this is written there, that this is the point where we get a selfie together. So I'm just going to put this down for a sec. And I just want everyone to know it's all right for you to take photos of us while we're doing it, just in case mine don't turn out too good.
Thanks. Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so we're up here. It's the first time we've come up here with the academy, the Jonathan Thurston Academy, which is an employment and education zone. So on the education part of it, it's about inspiring the next generation of young people, to have more self-belief and courage and confidence, and hopefully that, teaches them then to stay in the school and maybe even go on and further study, or get them to put their hand up for a job. Not like just put their hand up for the job, but actually go to the job interview and get that job. And if they don't get it, then show them the courage to get back up off the canvas and go back again. So Lend-Lease are a major employment partner. They give us jobs. We've got another partner in Accor Hotels as well. So couldn't be more proud of where the company is, where it started and where it is now. It's we only launched in February last year, and we're growing really quickly.
Why did you choose to concentrate on building the confidence of our Australian youth and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander youth?
Yeah, so that's something that I'm extremely passionate about. In the 2013-14, I was an ambassador for a few of the Cowboys educational programs, and I started to see the results of that and how good those programs were. So coming to the back end of my career, I knew I couldn't be an ambassador for those programs for the rest of my life, so I needed to come up with a plan, and I was thinking big. That's my passion, is trying to keep the next generation of our culture in school, but help them with on that journey, so inspire them to think big and be bold. And so the one thing with doing that is, though, what's next for them if they do stay at school and then they do complete grade 12, or what life looks like after that. So whether they go on a further study, or now we've got the resources to find these kids jobs now. So they're the two passions, and we had a lunch about 4 years ago, and started to come up with a plan on how to build the academy, and it was 2 years in the making, and we launched February last year, and it was some tough times as well, being a startup business. I wanted it to I suppose I want to make sure that the right people were around me in it. We started with $0 in our bank account, and a GM didn't get paid for 5 months, so it was a hard slog for the company, for the business. But I can't fault the effort that everyone's put into it, and now we're starting to reap the rewards of it. But in saying that, it's all about inspiring the next generation, because there's so many opportunities for them out there now that they just need to know what opportunities are there, and then we can inspire them to go and chase those dreams.
And I take it that the JT Academy doesn't concentrate just on sports, but all aspects or industries our young people can be inspired to pursue.
Yeah, that's right. So we don't concentrate on sport at all. The stuff that we do is we go into communities and run workshops. We have a JT Believe program that we're running in Cow and Yama, and that's all about getting the kids into school and keeping them in school. And then we're running a Women to Lead program at Woodridge State High School, and we've just recently launched at Yarrabah, which is south of Cairns. So the Woodridge one is 15 girls that we got in that program, and they're all from diverse backgrounds, and how far they've come since the program started is phenomenal. They were reaching their targets at school. So
the JT Academy coming to the Northern Territory?
We would love to, definitely. That's why we've come up here. We've had some really productive meetings the last couple of days. And like I said, the opportunities up here are pretty much endless with everything that's going on. And we're glad that we've been invited up here and to showcase what the Academy is about. And hopefully, we can certainly got our foot in the door now, and hopefully something will come of it.
Tradara is my name, and I've created a brand based on my name because the way I was named, it was a very cultural experience for my dad, and he thought that name actually fit for me, and it was just an amazing opportunity to be able to utilise my name to create a brand and inspire a lot of other Indigenous brands as well. I actually specialise in modern and traditional Aboriginal dot paintings, and what I do is I have an artistic flair, and I love to kind of combine tradition with modern together to enable an amazing creation and to create something that's so unique and nobody else has seen. So what I do, I've actually started my business when I was 17 years old, and I created a fashion line, homeware line and accessories. So some of my products here are caftans, one of which was worn at the Logie Awards by Sharina Clanton, which is absolutely amazing. All of the designs here are actually based on my true testament of who I am and my culture and the people of my tribe. The 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum has actually been absolutely amazing to be able to network with other Indigenous businesses, and not only that, it's an amazing platform to be able to network in general with so many different people in the Northern Territory and across the country.
The 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum provides the opportunity for the Territory's Aboriginal businesses to showcase products, network, share knowledge, and to grow.
So the NTIBN is a representative voice for Indigenous businesses throughout the Territory. We're acknowledged that by industries and government departments. We're a network base hoping to build the capacity of our Indigenous businesses members to get jobs or contracts in their given industry. The AEDF9, it's great. It's great for people to network, to come together. It's great for people to see Indigenous businesses and where they're at, especially with the economy right now. It's great to see so many people participating. Just because the economy is low, it doesn't mean we can't do something to overcome that. If you're an Indigenous business, we encourage you to contact us, NTIBN, so we can get you on our membership base and help you win those jobs.
Central Australia. I'm Yankun Dara speaker. I was born in Central Australia.
That's where I grew up the circle way.
I grew up the circle way.
Oh. Sometimes I want to learn the square way.
But sometimes I also want to learn that square system.
Oh. But sometimes it's hard to fit in.
Sometimes it's hard to fit a round circle in a square hole.
But I will learn.
But that's okay. We're all learning. We've got to keep learning.
Singo lankan la binanganyi is nguan bakajran ngabamban hela from Korinji country to the border where I'm from.
This is, you can see the Land Council, Central Land Council region is quite large, and it goes right up from Korinji down to the border where my country is, the South Australian border.
But Jungoringola, Jana Jungobe said,
and so elected delegates come together, then elect and put in place a chairperson.
But I always look forward. You can read.
Well, this is a bit hard language for me to read, but I think you can always see it, and I'm just always looking forward into the future, where we're going, so you can read that. That's what we want.
Ngura, ananango, and a jogorba. That's the one. Is it live?
For us, it's about land, people, and law. That's how we've always been, that's how we still want to live.
Why did you know? I know they always put food on the table for this thing. But Kore, one now, rendering on what we want. Not to get high, but what I'm going to do, enough for living. Still put food on the table, new way.
So I said people, land and law, and that economic side is people. Our people have always put food for their children, to sustain the future generations. That's a key to living. And now we have to do it in a different way. We've got a new way of doing it, but our aspirations are still to do the same thing. What we do in our work and in our lives is to make sure that we're growing up the future. Other people in their country, they want to be able to develop their economy through cattle. There are lots and lots of different opportunities for really good work, like tourism. These people here, you can see, they're always talking up strong for their country and employment opportunities for their young. Other really, really excellent work for people is looking after country through the ranger programs.
The ranger program is very important to look after.
People might wonder, well, what's so great about ranger work? But it's one of the most important things our people can do, because it relates directly back to looking after the country, literally, as well as everything else.
If
we don't have that work that's connected directly to looking after country, then we don't have our culture and law anymore. So then we have nothing. So if we can connect the ways that we make money with directly looking after things that are sewn into our culture via our country, then it's a win-win.
A business is really about trust and leadership, and that's certainly the story in relation to Tiwi Partners. The Tiwi Land Council over the years has shown great leadership by facilitating and creating a number of business enterprises through various family trusts, and many of those businesses are going concerns today. But there's always been an underlying desire to create a long-term sustainable economic base that would generate ongoing benefits to the Tiwi community, not only those attached to family trusts. There are approximately 22 businesses on the Tiwi Islands at the moment, and they include the local stores, forestry, tourism and others. In recent years, the level of collaboration and coordination between the Tiwi Land Council and the Tiwi Islands Regional Council has been such that both these organisations have recognised that although each has a different and separate role and function to perform, they both exist to serve the people on the Tiwi Islands. That recognition hasn't always been the case. One sign of this collaboration was the formation of the Tiwi Leaders Forum, where without any legal or corporate limitations or constraints that might normally apply to both councils in a formal setting, the leaders could have an open and constructive discussion on matters that were seen as the most important for the Tiwi community.
There was a verification process that we had to go through with Supply Nation to make us a business, and we had to go through some very strong interviews to see how... There were individual interviews held by Supply Nation with all the directors, and they just wanted us to know if we understood what business and everything was all about. And yeah, it was a pretty... it took a couple of months and everything, but that they wanted to check on how confident we were into going into business with Sitzlers and becoming Tiwi Partners. And at the end of all the interviews and everything, we came together, and then we got told yes, we were successful. And it was very reassuring to know that we are able to continue in this business as Tiwi Partners. And I just can't wait for the time when we are actually going to be doing setting up this community development trust fund so that we can see the communities benefiting from it.
We've been going for 3 years now, and I just want to thank KPMG for finding a way for Land Council and the Regional Council to work together to we don't want handouts anymore. We want to make our own, generate our own money now for our community. And so KPMG, thank you. Also Sitzlers, they've been a really good partner. We chose them because of the experience, and I think we need to work with experienced people, and one day we will take over our organisation and do things on our own, but we want to work with the best. So I want to thank Sitzler and also the past Mayor and Chairman of the Tiwi Land Council. So we've been going on for 3 years now. Amal Lynette was the first Mayor who was involved getting this going, so Amal should be really proud of herself.
Some may be forgiven for wondering what Northern Australian development is about, and we've probably heard the term used a lot. And you've probably heard about a thing called a white paper. A white paper is basically a plan which was done by the federal government and released in 2015. This particular white paper was about Northern Australian development and what should be done to further the north of Australia, which is about 53% of the country. Now, subsequent to the release of that white paper, the federal minister established a Indigenous reference group. That top box is the Northern Australian Strategic Partnership, which is overseen by the Prime Minister of Australia and the First Ministers from the Northern Territory, Queensland and WA, which is, in our case, the Chief Minister and the Premiers of Queensland and Western Australia. And then below that is a thing called a Ministerial Forum. Now, the Indigenous Reference Group makes recommendations to the Northern Australian Ministerial Forum, which is effectively the Minister for Northern Australia, other key ministers from out of the federal scene, and also First Ministers and other ministers from Western Australia, Queensland and the Northern Territory.
We were brought together by the Minister for Indigenous Affairs at the time and faced a group of, the Deputy Prime Minister at the time, who asked the question, what do you people want? I don't know anything about Indigenous Australia. So we had a fairly formidable task. 3 jurisdictions were part of this. It's really a policy package. And the backstory to this is since 2008, when the Office of Northern Australia first looked at unlocking potential in the north, that's when the agenda to look at Indigenous economic development happened. And so there's been a series of papers, green papers, white papers, you name it. So given that backstory, we were tasked with something fairly formidable. And with the 3 jurisdictions, Queensland, Northern Territory and Western Australia, to the credit of our government, Chief Minister Michael Gunner, who was the first minister to actually raise his hand and actually support the work of the IRG.
You'll get in the talk of governments and politicians a lot of statistics, and of course, we make up 15% of Northern Australia. In the territory context, we make up over 30%. But all of us, aren't going to get very far if we're not involved in every level of decision making, both in government and private enterprise, if we're not participating actively in those spaces. People talk about the closing the gap, and I know the health mob are meeting next door here, and they talk about that 10-year gap that we face in terms of life expectancy in this country. And life expectancy, of course, is a sum total of all of your life experiences and opportunities and the deficits that people face. In the territory, that is larger, that gap, and the largest gap is actually between Aboriginal men and non-Aboriginal women, which is about 20 years. Governments of every description have successively failed to address that issue, and really it's up to our mob. So I put a question, I know this question's coming to us, but I put a question to all of us here today. What are we going to do to close that gap for our own mob? How are we going to help ourselves, our friends and our families to close that gap? And one of the ways that I think we can do that is to grow our presence and our war chest in being engaged in economic activity and private industry. Because if we hang around for governments to do that, as well-intentioned as they may be, nothing's going to get better and things may get worse. You've seen the 6 themes that roundly cover the initial 16 points that the IRG came up with. And really, this is nothing new. We just have an opportunity to get into the ear of government through those jurisdictions and the minister as well, creating jobs, protecting our knowledge and leveraging off that knowledge, building the infrastructure we need to engage in that economic activity. One of my favourites, which is accessing capital. And if you look at places like Canada where they have their own Indigenous banks and they own the money, we need to aspire to that sort of level. Leveraging the resources and water, land and culture. Those are all things that are open to us. And trying to help the government make their processes easier for our mobs to engage in economic development and activity. We all deal with government here. We know it can take a long time, but we have to get moving.
I'm Tristan Mungatopi from the Tiwi Islands, and my question is for Dr. Odegaard to do with political persuasions and whether that's hard as at the IRG to work with different governments.
Well, we've approached this on an apolitical, in an apolitical way, and that's a really good question because, you know, as Nigel and our other members would attest, you know, there was a fair bit of sort of tensions, if I could say, but nevertheless, you know, we have managed to navigate that because we've put forward, you know, the logical sense in us all coming together. And a big thing that actually has come out of this is the importance of working together, collaboration, setting aside differences, even setting aside we needed the jurisdictions to come on board to support us. But yes, it was challenging at the beginning, but pleased to say, you know, we're all moving together.
The committee and the board that you sit on, is it going to help move the vehicle of developing the North quicker?
I think we'd all like to see something being done yesterday. That there's no doubt about that. I mean, it you know, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone in the room or anywhere else that, you know, we're the oldest business people in the world. But then a couple hundred years ago, someone drew lines on a map and our international trade stopped, and eventually a lot of the trade between our mobs stopped as well. So business is nothing new to us. What I see as the opportunity that we have in refocusing essentially the government's northern agenda is to put our mobs collectively across Northern Australia front and centre where we should be. You know, people talk about, you know, 80% control and 50% native title and this and that, but what they all forget is that it's 100% Aboriginal land. That's where we should be starting from in all of our conversations with government, and not simply being dictated to in terms of the jurisdictions or the lines on a map that people want to talk about.
We met with dozens of policymakers across Australia from the Commonwealth, and our priority, front and centre, is the cultural and social well-being of our people. And we discuss things around, you know, Aboriginal health, Aboriginal housing, things like that. So, and that is still our priority.
It is appropriate this forum is held on the land of the Larrakia people, as they are actively pursuing economic and business opportunities on their land. Thank you for inviting me to open the second day of the 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum. As I've been travelling around Australia, I am constantly reminded of the vision, commitment and entrepreneurship of Indigenous Australian business owners. Here in the Northern Territory, businesses owned and operated by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are growing rapidly across a range of industries. Anything is possible for Indigenous Australians who are looking to start or to grow a business. I want to ensure that young people of today can take up future opportunities. That's why I'm determined to work with families and communities to make sure that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children get the best start through a good education. Here in the Northern Territory, too many children are not attending school regularly and are getting caught up in the justice system. And I'm calling today on governments and families and communities to turn this around. We can't create jobs and business opportunities without the local workforce. Earlier this week, I travelled to Bladderwich, a small culturally strong community in Central Australia, to hand over the title to more than 3,000 hectares of land as part of the native title settlement in the area to the traditional owners. It was a significant milestone and the culmination of a long journey for the Illawarra people that recognised that their traditional ownership of the land is uninterrupted and everlasting. The grant ensures that all traditional owners control more of their traditional lands while still retaining the pastoralist capacity to effectively manage Amaroo Station and incorporate the former stock routes and reserves into the pastoral lease. This is economic empowerment, while looking to maintain and protect current economic activity. It is entrusting Indigenous Australians to make decisions that will benefit their communities and their people. Land security is economic security. And from the economic security comes the ability to put in place the foundations that will lead to economic growth, job opportunity and better security for our people. That's why today it is, and I want to announce my intention to prioritise the finalisation of the grants of land for an additional 15 Indigenous land claims in the Northern Territory. This follows recommendations made by the Aboriginal Land Commissioner to Parliament earlier this year. The Aboriginal Lands Commissioner's report covered 16 land claims recommended for grants, some of which were lodged nearly 40 years ago. That is 40 years of lost economic opportunity and empowerment of Indigenous Australians at a local level. It's time we took action and put a focus on resolving these land claims. It's time we put the focus on the economic potential of this land as it happens elsewhere in Australia. To best understand the significance of what we're proposing, we must understand where we currently stand. The most recent census found that approximately 223,000 Indigenous Australians aged 15 years and over were participating in the labour force. This represents a participation rate of 52% compared with 77% of non-Indigenous Australians. I see that Indigenous businesses and business owners have a vital role to play in closing this gap. When we find success in business, it invariably leads to greater opportunities for our people. I encourage everyone here today to look at how we can support you to grow your business, provide new employment opportunities for all Australians. I think the other element that I have found with Indigenous businesses is we employ our own. We give young people an opportunity. I love coming to Darwin and to the Northern Territory because there is a strong self-belief. There is great ambition for what tomorrow will bring. There is great determination to realise a better future. And I've certainly seen that in all the communities I've been in over this week. Government can merely support these aims. It's up to you and to us to work, invest and drive these outcomes. I have tremendous faith and optimism that as an Indigenous Australian, we can continue to go from strength to strength and build our communities in a way that they are vibrant, have economic pathways, but more importantly, create a future for the future generations of our children.
The 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum provides the opportunity for the Territory's Aboriginal businesses to showcase products, network, share knowledge, and to grow.
Thank you, Minister, for joining me today.
Hi, Reg. It's always great to be with you, and I always love having a yarn.
Why is it important that forums like these need to be had in regards to the development of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander businesses?
These conferences and forums are important because what happens is individuals operate independently. And when you come together, you get the opportunity to share your ideas, you share your experiences, because not every business goes smoothly. And in a sense, what we're doing at these forums is we are teaching each other about better ways of doing things. So we get that chance to share. And what I see in this room today, and from those I've talked to on the way in, they're all teachers, but they're also learners, because they're learning what else is there that I can do for my business. So it's a great way of bringing together incredible talent.
Minister, how important is economic development for Indigenous people in regards to closing the gaps in education, job employment, health?
It's important because what I see is that when young Aboriginal people, and some of the older ones now who've got their own business, they employ our people. But when they employ them, they start teaching them. I went to a company not long ago in another state, and it's a landscaping and playground company. They took in a young Aboriginal guy whose English wasn't brilliant because he'd gone through school, he had dropped out. They're teaching him, and he's becoming confident. He's just taken to the landscaping business like a duck takes to water. It was really great to see, and that's what I think is one of the best outcomes that I see from businesses that our people lead.
That is amazing. That's great. You spoke about the importance of organisation and governments to keep supporting successful programs and talking about them and talking about the successes. Why is that important, that we keep celebrating and keep supporting those government, those organisations and programs?
I had this salient learning experience with young people from the Kimberley. They said to me, you know, everything about us is in deficit. Everything is about a gap. There's nothing good about us. And I said, yes, there is. And it made me realise we've got to stop using negative language, and we should be celebrating success. If somebody's doing well, we should say, hey, love what you're doing, great company. And that's why I'm going to start making the opportunities of and sharing with our communities successful businesses and celebrating them.
Now, Minister, during your speech, you talked about while you're in the Northern Territory, you hope to give back some land grants or to hand out more land claims to the Aboriginal people of the Northern Territory. Why is land such an important and economic development of Aboriginal people and its communities?
Land has always been there. It was our land before settlement. But where people own land, they use it as an asset to develop housing, develop wealth, community wealth and individual wealth, but they can also develop businesses. So it's a great way of using the land to turn it into an economic opportunity, but it comes with jobs. If I had a pastoral lease, for example, I would develop it to have the stock of cattle on it so that I could sell meat to China. China is hungry for our meat, and I use that term loosely, but they're going to continue to buy food. And if we've got assets, let's develop them, because we develop skills of our kids at the same time.
One more question, Minister. You talked about how in the Northern Territory and across Australia, you know, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people have boundless possibilities in making business and creating business. Where do you see Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organisations, businesses, entrepreneurs being in the next 10 years? What do you see for the future?
I think with the numbers we've seen, I think we'll double. At least double. But I think we will see more and more go into businesses or into joint ventures and develop incredible opportunities. I heard a community yesterday outline a development that they're going to be involved in that will realise millions and millions of dollars. And if that happens, then that community is set for life. But it's using technology and equipment that is going to turn products that are within the bush, without destroying the bush at all, into things that the rest of Australia will buy. And they've already bought the equipment. So they'll start that journey, and that's why we are innovators. We've always... Look, if we take that television program we saw, The Bush Mechanic, if that's an indication of innovation, then wow, wait till we see the young ones innovate and come forward with all sorts of ideas that will realise their own wealth in the future. It'll happen in my lifetime, I'll see it. I'll be able to sit back as an old man and say, great.
The 9th Aboriginal Economic Development Forum is one of Australia's largest Aboriginal economic events during a time that has seen the Aboriginal business sector growing more rapidly than the rest of the economy.